now. So they keep bowing. That's the dimension of replenishing. So if you came for meeting yesterday and the blind saw, it's an abomination for only the blind to see in the next meeting. Something else must happen. That's to replenish. Meanwhile, these strategies are designed in order to confound our enemies. Be fruitful, multiply, subdue, replenish, have dominion. You know, the reason God called us into revival, I'm talking like this so everywhere we come down before I go high. The reason God called us into partner, please, don't worry, sit down. The reason God called us into partnership is not because He can't do the work. He wants us to have the experience of divinity. The reason God summons us to carry out divine assignments is not because God can't do it. He wants you and I to have a feel of what it means like to be a God. And I'll tell you, in Genesis chapter 1 verse 2, the Bible said the earth was formless. It said it was void. And it said darkness was upon the face of the deep. The word formless is the word to who? It means the earth was in the state of obscurity. The earth was no longer reflective of what God designed. This microphone I'm using, for example, if it stops working and you break it and you scatter it, that is what it means to be formless. So there is no way it looks like a microphone anymore. So when you came into the earth in Genesis 1 verse 2 and they told you this is the earth, you say it's a lie. That's what formless means. It means the earth was mutilated. And it was not only that, he said it was void. The word void is the word bohu. What it means is that the earth was no longer functioning according to design. So the sun no longer rises. The moon no longer rises. The water bodies are scattered. Light vanished in darkness. The impossible began to happen. How can light be hid in darkness? That's bohu. A state where there is light, but darkness subdues light is bohu. So everything loses its flavor. And he said darkness was upon the face of the deep. What it means is that a contrary government, apart from the government of God, was on the face of the earth. Now, these three states of destruction was what the earth looked like. And God showed up in a moment. And he said, "Let there be light." And instantly, tohu, bohu, and all of the damage on the earth was corrected by one word. Do you know what that means? It means the whole revival we have heard of from the beginning of the earth till now is not compared to the one utterance that God said, "Let there be light." So God doesn't need revival to change the earth. God doesn't need men to change the earth. Because in one word, "Let there be light," things will change. You know, if God shows up in Sokoto and say, "Let the caliphate go down," that's it. In a moment, everything will turn. Meanwhile, you have been interceding for the caliphate for more than 50 years. Do you know why God allows it? Even though your pattern is slow, His own is quick. He allows it because He wants you to have an experience of what it means to be a God. So revival is all about the experience of divinity. To do what God does, the way God does it. If God wants every religion in the world today to shut down, He will only say, "Let Every Hindu will join Christianity in one day. Every Muslim will join Christianity in one day. But the reason he says go into all the world is so that we experience what it means like to be a God. So revival is the experience of God. It's not a religious activity. If we have not begun to experience God, revival have not started. Out of the ashes of my dying today, I see the breaking of a brand new day, in which the name of the Lord alone is glorified. I see the breaking of a brand new day. When God begins to call a people, give me volume so I don't scream. My voice is in a bad state. Sit down. When God calls you, it's a privilege. He doesn't need you. Without man on the face of the earth, God corrected the whole earth in 6 days. Everything came back to alignment 6 days. Meanwhile, God was not sweating. Because when the spirit is walking, it doesn't walk the way you walk. When you walk, you carry things, you sweat, you do all kinds of things. When the spirit is walking, he only needs to talk. So God was talking for 6 days and the earth was corrected. So what God did in 6 days, man has not been able to do in 6,000 years. Do you see why he said a day in God is 1,000 years? What he did in 6 days, we have not been able to do in 6,000 years. Because from Adam to now is 6,000. So revival is not activity. It's a move of God. You know, when we say revival, everybody thinks it's about doing something. Some of the most active players of revival, you will not see them on the street. The greatest participants of certain revivals, they were locked away in their room on their knees. Because revival is not activity, it's the move of God. And a man can generate a move of God from his bedroom, and it will be the reason why a territory is taken. Meanwhile, 2,000 people can be doing activity on the street and they will have no impact. Because if it was about activity, God wouldn't have participated in it. Because it took him only 6 days to change the world. He doesn't need 6,000 years to change the world. He only wants you to experience him. If you have not experienced God, you didn't take part in the revival. That's what I'm saying. And I'm laying this foundation so you will take what I want to share seriously. God bless you. Brother, come. Since you want something, by all means. No, stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Don't be the same again. Never be the same again. I clothe you with the spirit of revival. From today, born. Leave me. If you didn't experience God, you were not in the revival. But you can be part of the activities. It is the move of God. So I want to share with you 3 things about revival tonight. So when you live here, it will become your experience. The first thing I want to share is who an agent of revival is. The second thing will be what weapons of revival are. And the third thing I'll be sharing is where revival takes place. So that we'll have direction. If we keep releasing fire, we may end up running around and not achieving much. We'll become excited and it will become emotional. You go to certain places, they say revival. And people want to pray, they stand on plastic chair. That's lawlessness. That's not revival. That's lawlessness. But if they are not taught, they will not know. So somebody wants to pray, he starts on a plastic chair. That's not the move of the Spirit. It's lawlessness. So sometimes we need to sit down and straighten certain truths before we release fire. So that you don't stand up and say you are on fire and you start doing things that is not consistent with the nature of God and you call it revival. Because when revival comes, it will impact the nature of the Spirit that sponsors it. So if it is the spirit of lawlessness, people will become lawless. But if it is the Spirit of God, the nature and character of God will be imparted on the people. So I will weaken you for a while and explain some little things. Who are agents of revival? The first thing about agents of revival is that they are accurate in doctrine. You cannot bring revival if you are not sound in doctrine. You will lead a generation to error. And because revival has to do with energy, you will mistake energy for accuracy. It's not so.